As far back as our mythology stretches, carved into stone, passed down in verse, or buried beneath layers of academic dust, there has always been a ruling caste among the Indo-European people. They were the first among men. Before there were kings, there were warbands, known as the Koryos and later Mannerbunde. The youth bands who left the safety of the tribe to wander the wilderness, to war, to suffer, to triumph. Through fire and frost, blood and brotherhood, they emerged transformed, hardened, set apart. They did not return as boys. They returned as Einharya, noble in strength, noble in spirit. But do not mistake that nobility for virtue in the modern sense. It did not mean kind. It did not mean equal. It meant different, higher, unbound. These men brought with them new laws, new values, and in time, new tribes conquered and unified under their banners. And always, they ruled. Not as one of the people, but over them. They did not ask for permission. They did not beg for acceptance. They forged identity through fire and myth, through force and loyalty. Their god legends, whether Zeus or Indra, Odin or Perun, did not arise in quiet prayer, but in war cries and conquest. This is our tradition. A natural hierarchy born of merit, trial, strength, and command. A ruling caste that understood leadership not as appeasement but as burden. The burden of seeing the world not through the eyes of the ruled, but from above. This is why they created mythology. Not as bedtime stories for children, but as tools for shaping tribes. Tools for forging cohesion and identity, tools that held together civilization but also held apart the rulers from the ruled. Because there are two kinds of conquest. One comes from without, spear in hand, fire in eyes, the warband, the conqueror. The other comes from within, soft hands, silver tongues, the usurper, the deceiver. And it is this internal threat that has been allowed to fester. These manipulators, these outsiders who look like us but are not of us, have learned to twist the language of the herd. They weaponize what Nietzsche called slave morality, the morality of the weak, to shame, to guilt, to gaslight the strong into surrendering power. They cry hypocrisy at the noble caste, hoping the ruled will rise against their rulers, not realizing that once the hierarchy collapses, it is they who will be ruled by monsters far worse. This tactic has been most devastating under the morality imported by Christianity. A morality of good and evil, sin and forgiveness, fit for peasants, but not kings. The peasant sees morality as absolutes, as rigid commandments. The nobles see it as context. What is good for the tribe is moral. What is bad for the tribe is evil. Full stop. And that's what you've forgotten. The king does not share your morality. He cannot. His responsibility is higher than your comfort. That's why his shoulders are broad and his decisions hard. He must do what you cannot. He must act outside your rules. And when he does, the deceivers, those same usurpers, cry foul. Look, they say, hypocrisy. But they know what they're doing. They know what they really hate is hierarchy itself. Because they want it for themselves. And the mob they raise today will be the slave class they feed on tomorrow. You can be certain of that. So before we begin, remember this. We are not equal. We never have been. The stories of our people tell the truth. We've just forgotten how to read them. The myths of hierarchy, strength, and divine kingship are not relics. They are blueprints, tools for survival. Tools we must wield again. Because if the noble caste does not rise, the deceivers will. And when they do, there will be no second chance. Let the peasants keep their Christianity. Let them keep their soft gods and weaker judges. We, the first among men, must walk the path of thunder once more. Back to the warband. Back to the gods. Back to the truth. In the modern world, the average man cannot stop pointing his finger. He calls out what he believes is hypocrisy. He sees the rulers break their own rules, sees celebrities defy the codes they preach, sees elites act in ways he cannot, and so he screams, "Hypocrite." But he's wrong. What he is seeing is not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy. You were trained, conditioned to see the world through a lens of fairness, of equality, of shared moral values. You were told that the rulers are just like you, that they're public servants, fellow citizens, moral equals. You were told they live by the same rules, feel the same pain, operate within the same ethical code. But they don't. They never have. To understand why, you must understand nobility. Not the cartoon version, not the sanitized post-Christian ideal of noble as virtuous or kind-hearted. I mean true nobility. The ancient Aryan concept, the origin of the word. Noble means set apart. It means above. It means not of the ruled. The noble caste did not see themselves as mere humans governing other humans. They were the descendants of warbands, conquerors who imposed order through strength. They had different blood, different values, and different obligations. They were not protectors of the people. They were protectors of their own kind. Their morality was not Christian, it was tribal. It was not measured by abstract concepts of good and evil. That binary, good versus evil, is the invention of a slave religion. It came after. It came to tame the conqueror's fire. The warband had no interest in moral abstractions. They viewed action through a simpler, more brutal lens. Is it good for my people, or is it bad? That's it. Not is it fair, not does it uphold universal values, only this. Does it serve my tribe, or does it threaten it? This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of slave morality. He wasn't being metaphorical. He was speaking literally. You have been raised in slave morality, born into it, baptized into it. You were taught to be meek, to be kind, to believe in the inherent goodness of man. You were taught that rules are sacred and that everyone is equal under them. You were told that to be good is to obey. But your rulers don't believe that. They never did. That's why Machiavelli's The Prince was so explosive. It didn't invent tyranny. It exposed it. It ripped the veil off the fiction that the ruling class shares your values. It revealed the logic of power, cold and clear. It didn't corrupt power. It simply explained how power actually operates. And that's why you struggle. That's why you sputter and flail, thinking that calling someone a hypocrite is some kind of victory. You think you've scored a point, exposed some contradiction, revealed some injustice. But the man you accuse doesn't flinch, because you've misunderstood him. You think he's broken a rule. He thinks you've forgotten your place. He's not living by your morality. He's living by his own. Your outrage doesn't hurt him. It confirms his status. Because morality in his eyes is for you, not for him. Let me give you a brutal, modern example. One some of you have lived through a few times. Think about women. Think about dating. I'm sure you've heard it in your life that nice guys finish last. And you probably believe that's unfair. You thought being kind, generous, being a good person was supposed to earn love. But still, women flock to the bad boy, the rule breaker, the untamed man, the one who plays by his code, not yours. You wrongly call it hypocrisy. You lash out and call women shallow or foolish or irrational. But it's not hypocrisy. It's instinct. Women are drawn to power, to the signal of strength. Not because the bad boy is noble in blood, but because he's noble in posture. He's set apart. He doesn't kneel. He doesn't ask permission. He does not live by slave morality, and that is what makes him attractive. Why? Because women, at their biological core, are wired to seek protection and provision. And they know, even subconsciously, that a man who follows rules like a lamb cannot protect them from wolves. He cannot provide fire because he does not wield it. You've misunderstood the game. You think success is about being good, but success has always belonged to the strong, to the clear-eyed, to the ones who operate above the herd, not within it. This is the core of hierarchy. It isn't hypocrisy when the powerful do what you cannot. That's the point. They ascend because they are willing to act outside your code. They rule because they refuse to be ruled. They are noble not because they are virtuous, but because they are willing to seize and wield power in ways that you cannot stomach. And that, my brothers, that's the bitter truth. A truth you were never supposed to learn. The game was never fair. It was never meant to be. Your moral cage was built to keep you tame while they fly free. Every time you cry hypocrisy instead of hierarchy, you reinforce the lie that keeps you enslaved. But here's the final truth. You can step out of it. You can walk away from the morality of the slave. You can stop expecting your rulers to share your values. You can stop asking for permission and start demanding strength. You can rise. You may not be noble by blood, but you can be noble by deed, by action, by posture and frame, by fire. The world does not need more good men. It needs strong men, clear men. Men who are no longer confused by the lies of equality. Men who do not cry when the shepherd shears the sheep, but who rise, hammer in hand, and say, I was not born to kneel. Let the herd call it hypocrisy. Let them scream into the wind. You will know better. You will call it by its true name, hierarchy. And you will rise within it, or be ruled by those who do. Now that you've seen the truth, the question isn't whether you'll walk the path. The question is whether you'll survive it. Because the moment you rise, when you choose, even silently, to reject the role of the slave and take up the mantle of the aristocrat, the world will turn against you. Not just the outer world, but the one inside you. You will turn against you. The shame will come first. A phantom voice whispering, Who do you think you are? This is the curse of the domesticated man. You have been raised from birth in a world that despises hierarchy, yet serves it blindly. A world where you are told to feel guilty for wanting more, for wanting strength, for aspiring to rule, for refusing to crawl. This isn't an accident. This was done to you on purpose. And those who did it knew exactly what they were doing. They want you soft. They want you safe. They want you afraid. Afraid to declare yourself a warrior. Afraid to act like a king. Because they know the truth. If you reject the role of a slave and succeed, you will inspire others. You will burn through the lies like fire through dry grass. But if you reject it and fail, they will be waiting to cast you out. This is how the herd enforces its cage, not with bars, but with shame, with guilt, with fear of exile. This only works when you are weak. This only works when you are alone. But the truth is, you are not alone. You are not the first to walk this path, and you will not be the last. The blood of kings runs in your veins. The primal beast lives within you. But it is only the beginning. The higher man, the Ubermensch, must be forged. He does not emerge by accident. He is not summoned by slogans or hashtags. He is called forth through pain, through discipline, through fire. This path is not for everyone. It never was. The path of the frenzied one, the wanderer, the seeker, the sacrifice, and the sovereign is not for the many. It is for the few who choose to live up to the Aryan tradition of the hero. Koryos, the shining ones. All born with potential, but only potential. To become the first among men, you must pay for it in sweat and blood, and in silence and solitude. As you walk this path, the herd will beg you to return. They will call you names. They will call you evil. They will offer you comfort, praise, women, safety, anything to bring you back to the pasture. But you were not born to graze. You were not born to be fattened for slaughter. You were born to lead. Every day you grow stronger, clearer, harder. The peasants will look on with righteous indignation. Not because you've wronged them, but because you are becoming the man they will never be. They feel it, they know it, and so they will scream. Let them. This is the burden of kingship. The weight of the crown is lonely. You will lose friends. You will lose comfort. You will lose the illusion of safety. But in return, you will gain yourself. You will gain the sacred fire that animated your ancestors. You will gain the eyes of the God who hung from the tree. And you will gain the only kind of freedom that matters, the freedom of the higher man. So walk tall, brother. You were never meant to live on your knees. You were born to carry the spear, to take the crown, to stand as the first among men, not in shame, but in glory and triumph. The herd will never understand you, but the gods will, and that is enough. Until next time.